Imagine we are sending parts from Japan to US. These parts are first created by suppliers in Japan. When they are ready, they head to the vending center. This place is like a gathering spot where parts from different suppliers meet up. They are organized efficiently in plastic trays to fit just right into the shipping container. After the containers are packed, they are taken to nearby port. Over there, all the paperwork needed to send them off gets sorted. This includes the export declaration, the bill of lading, which are like travel documents. They say what's inside, where they are heading, the sender and the receiver. So once the custom gives the clearance, the containers are loaded onto a ship bound to US. Now talking about the import procedure. Zoom ahead about 4 weeks and the ship docks at the US port. The containers are unloaded and go through US customs. The import paperwork is bit like the export stuff, but we also have things like import declaration and a custom bond. This paper let customs know what's inside the boxes, that is the container, where they came from and who's waiting for them, that is the consignee. When the customs officials say everything is okay and all the import custom duty are paid, the containers are ready to move again. They might be put on a train or a truck to head to our factory. At the factory, the containers wait in a special parking area until we need them. When it's time, we unload the parts at the assembly plant, scan them to check they have made it, and then put them into the manufacturing lineup. The big thing to remember is that we always need to keep an eye on where the parts are in the whole process. We need to be ready for unexpected issues so that we keep everything ticking along just right. Now from this image, you can see parts from overseas, probably those coming from far off. Join the mix of local parts at crossdock. Once they are all sorted, we send them in a big organized delivery to the assembly plant. So from this we can say that when overseas parts come to our ports, we can deliver them directly to our assembly plant or we can deliver them to the crossdock nearby where they join the parts from the local suppliers. Now pipeline management is crucial, particularly for parts with extended lead times. These parts can take 3 to 6 weeks to arrive, in contrast to less than 2 weeks for locally sourced parts. Vehicle orders are typically confirmed 5 to 10 days before production, which can lead to change in parts requirement at short notice. So to address this, we establish a system that monitors the pipeline for long lead time parts daily. It adjusts our requirement based on any changes in vehicle specification. We compare this adjustment against our part inventory every day to identify potential shortage or surplus. So the findings are displayed graphically, allowing us to quickly spot and address any issues that might disrupt production. If necessary, we can expedite parts via air freight. Although it's costly, but we need to take these steps. If the parts are delayed in international waters at sea, or if there is any major issue the shipping industry is facing due to war, due to piracy or any other issues. So it's always a better option to choose air freight in case of emergency. So wrapping up our inbound logistics, the collaboration between our company and third-party logistics provider or 3PLs is mutually beneficial. For example, consider a scenario where a forward-thinking electric car manufacturer like Tesla teams up with top logistics providers such as DHL. It's a two-way street of benefits. Initially, the logistics provider learns from the car manufacturer's advanced distribution method. Then they apply these insights across their client base. For an instance, they might improve the delivery process for a high-end electric bike company, optimizing their trucks to carry more bikes and introducing GPS tracking for real-time delivery updates. But their evolution doesn't stop at transport. They become a powerhouse in supply chain management, sometimes handling all the logistics activities for a client. So through their partnership with car manufacturers, the third-party logistics operator increase their market value as they can display on their website that the said company, which is a giant in automotive industry, is their client and taking services from this logistic company. So this way, other companies who are into the automotive business will trust them, and this will in the long run make them a huge logistics brand. Guess what? Our car is now fully assembled, ready to hit the roads, and it's showtime at the dealership. Now it's time for outbound logistics. You can think of it as a big road trip for our cars after they have been made. It's all about getting those shiny brand new cars from the assembly line where they are built right to the showrooms and dealership where you and I might go to buy them. But here's the cool part. The road trip isn't same everywhere. For example, how a car gets to a dealership in North America might be different from how it gets there in Europe. That's because of all sort of things like distance, rules, and even types of cars being transported. Now, to actually move all the cars from the factories to the dealership, the car manufacturer works with other companies. These helpers are again the ones who helped us in our inbound logistics, the third-party logistics providers. They are like the travel guides for these cars, making sure they get where they need to be. But these 3PLs aren't just working for one car manufacturer. They work with different car manufacturers and handle transportation for all sorts of stuff, not just cars. This is a bit different from when 3PLs are bringing parts to the factory, where some of them might only work for one manufacturer. So how do the cars get at the dealership? Well, they might take a ride on train or get a lift on truck. These trains and trucks are super busy. They are moving lots of goods around, not just cars. And just like you might carpool with your friends, this truck often carry cars from different manufacturers all together to make the journey more efficient. So in a nutshell, outbound logistics in automotive industry is about a giant organized carpool. It's a big team effort to get all those new cars from the factories to the dealership, ready for their new owners. So let's talk about how outbound logistics works for North America. But let's make it simple. Imagine the entire process as a big road trip where cars are the passengers. So the first step of this journey starts when the cars are assembled and ready to go. They are moved to a place called marshalling yard. Think of marshalling yard like a giant parking lot. This is where the cars get ready for journey ahead. Now some cars might need some extra attention. Maybe they need a cool new accessory or two before they can hit the road. These cars get moved over to spacious section where the accessories get installed. This usually takes about 1 or 3 days. Once the cars are all set, they are moved to the staging area to begin their trip. From here, they have two possible routes to take. The first one involves a train journey where they are loaded onto rail cars and shipped to a train station known as a railhead. From there, a truck picks them up and takes them to the dealer. So cars are put in different areas based on where they need to go. For example, if a car needs to go to New York, it will be put in the New York area. This way, it can be loaded onto the train that is going to New York. The same process happens for cars going to Los Angeles and other places. The trains are also carefully set up. For example, if a train is going west, it's best to put the cars that need to go the farthest on the train first. Then as the train goes off each place, the right cars can be taken off easily. Rest the trucking is done after unloading the cars from the train. Now the second route is more straightforward. It's like a direct flight. The cars are simply loaded on the truck at the assembly plant and driven directly to the dealership. The route chosen often depends on the distance to the dealership. If the dealer is more than 500 miles away, then the train route is preferred. If the dealer is closer, within a couple of days of travel time, the direct truck route is usually taken. But no matter the route, the idea is to get the cars to the dealer as quickly as possible. And to ensure this, there are strict timelines in place. For instance, for the trucks, the goal is to get the cars from the staging area to the dealership within 48 hours. But things get a bit more complicated when it comes to trains. A lot of factors can affect how long the train journey takes. Things like switching times at the rail yard, the demand for empty rail cars, congestion at the final destination rail yard, and so on. So there isn't a set time for train deliveries. Now loading the cars on the train or trucks isn't as simple as it sounds. There are two types of rail cars. First is the bi-level and second is the tri-level. Bi-levels are used for bigger cars like SUVs and pickups, while tri-levels are for smaller cars. And interestingly, the design of cars can have a big impact on the supply chain operation and costs. If a car is too tall for tri-level rail car, it has to be shipped on a bi-level rail car, which costs more because of the the reduction of efficiency of the rail car. So you can see outbound logistics isn't just about getting cars from point A to point B. It's a complex process that includes careful planning, coordination, and deep understanding of each step of the journey. Each decision made along the way can have a significant impact downstream. And like a well-planned road trip, when everything goes smoothly, it not only saves time and money but also ensures that the cars reach their destination safely and efficiently. Now talking about Europe's distribution model. In Europe, car shops don't have a lot of space, so they can't keep many cars at their place. When the cars are ready at the factory, they go to a big parking lot called a marshalling yard. But in Europe, they don't do anything extra to the cars there. The cars go straight to a place called staging area. Next, the cars take a truck ride to place called regional hubs, where they put price tags on the cars and make them look cool. So when a car gets sold, the hub gets told. They make sure that the car looks nice, put some extra stuff, and then the car goes to the shop, that is the dealership. In Europe, we usually move cars and trucks, not on trains. But sometimes for really long trips, we use trains. And if we have to cross river, we use boats. We also guess when the car will reach the car shop. We call this the ETA. We use the time the car got checked last at the hub to guess this. And this ETA is like a promise. It's the last time the car should arrive. So moving cars is like a big planned trip. It changes based on where you are. But no matter where, it's always important to make sure the cars reach on time.